Thanks, sir. Let us pray. Lord God, thank you for sunshine, Heavenly Father. It feels so great, and we just invigorates us. Heavenly Father, just lifts us up and gets us through the day. Lord, we just ask you to give us open minds and hearts, Lord, as we hear these bills for the great people of Georgia. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, Representative Jones, if you want to come on forward here. We've got House Bill 652. I'll do a little short introduction to it. There is a charging station run by a nonprofit, and this is sort of an exemption for them, so they don't pay the fees on something because they collect zero money on it. It's just a service they've offered for a while, and so the carve out would really just be for one facility. Anyway, you can go ahead with your better explanation of it.
Well, first of all, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for that introduction. But I would agree, members of the committee, with the chairman's explanation in the sense that this is really a look back at one site. Approximately 10 years ago, a nonprofit by the name of Ray created a EV charging station, a level 3 EV charging station along the Ray, which is on its part of Interstate 85. This charging station is actually powered by a solar array that the Ray also paid for to charge that station, so you can charge your EV. Now, 10 years ago, that was cutting edge stuff. Today, that's not. As you all know, with the EV charging bill that was effectively put through by Leader Gooch and by Chairman Jaspers, we are going to start collecting effectively an excise tax against that. This is an exemption to that tax for one facility, and you will see on lines 12 through 17, it is defined as a facility that provides no charge electric vehicle charging. It was in operation as of the beginning of this year, January 1. It is a nonprofit, and it's sitting on a federal right-of-way. We know with 100% certainty this is the only facility, or charging station, I shouldn't call it a facility, that meets this criteria. And as you can see, if you weren't in operation by the beginning of this year, you do not meet this exemption. So this is our opportunity to say to the donors of the Ray, and we have confirmed this is donor money that put this into place. This was no government money that put this into place. Mr. Chairman, that's the explanation of the bill.
All right, any questions by the committee? Senator Steele. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, thank you for this bill. Is there an opportunity for anyone else to do this? Is there any vision in the future that there would be other nonprofits like this that might pop up?
Senator Still, thank you for the question. Because of the fact this is the only one on the federal right-of-way, if you're on a federal right-of-way, you're not permitted to charge any type of commerce on that federal right-of-way, and the federal government has indicated they do not intend to provide anyone with the opportunity to go onto a federal right-of-way. Now, that can change, obviously, as you know, Senator Still, but at this point, we felt as if creating the carve-out for what exists today, and then if the body believes X number of years from now that this is something that wants to be recontemplated, we can do that when it's time, but right now, we wanted to make sure that we took care of the one that was there versus what could occur.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think you've got a bigger, long-reaching question, but this is just a pretty simple one-item thing. I don't see any other questions. Anybody want to offer a motion?
I move you pass.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion from anybody? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And your Senate sponsor?
Chuck Payne.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Motion carries. You can get to your other meeting. Next, we're going to have Representative Martin, if you want to come forward. And you've got a letter from the chamber in there, but try to vote for it anyway. No, I'm just kidding.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I was thinking 175. This is 652. The width is what I'm going to be carrying.
That's kind of what I thought when you said that. It surprised me.
My apologies. I'm hustling.
All right.
It actually hurts.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Since the gentleman's gone, I'll remind him he's from the University of Florida, and we try to look over short-term memory loss from down there.
All right, go ahead and present your bill, Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is House Bill 445 LC 50 1095. What we're seeking to do in this bill is for tangible personal property in excess of $200,000, Right now, if you make an appeal, that just goes to the BOE. That's 3 citizens that normally sit and do when we're doing residential property. What we're seeking to do is allow the taxpayer at their option to go directly to a hearing officer, somebody that's knowledgeable about the more complex property that they may have and can render a decision that's less likely to be appealed. Appeal is still available, but so it'll do 2 things. It'll provide the taxpayer a better option and answer. It'll unclog the Superior Court system, we hope, and it will give the taxpayer their flexibility. It doesn't change anything that's admissible during the appeal. It doesn't change how the appeal works. It just goes to a hearing officer. So Section 1 of the bill deals with the notice, and that just needs to be put in lines 30 through 33 to be put on the notice that the taxpayer has that right. And the last section of the bill gives the county additional individuals that qualify to be that public hearing or that hearing officer, so they can keep up with the need. But we think this will speed up and expedite, be taxpayer friendly for the county, for the taxpayer, and unclog the Superior Courts. Mr. Chairman, I talked to you this morning about some changes that you had made in another bill in 485306. Y'all are working in paragraph 1. This bill deals with paragraph 2, so there would not be an overlap that we wouldn't have to worry about should both bills pass and proceed, that they would bother each other. Now,
All right, I think you've looked at this before, hadn't you, in the past? And
Yes, sir. We've had it out here, out of the House twice with no dissenting votes. I think we've had it before your committee with no dissenting votes. It's just had trouble getting over the line with all the competition toward the end of session.
all right, ACCG, any issues you have with it?
No issues from you, Foreman.
Okay. Any questions by the committee? Senator Rhett?
It passed unanimously, didn't it?
In the House, yes, sir. But twice, actually, yes, sir. I think we're about 360 and 335 to 0 there.
All right. Senator Estevez?
I think
You have
we're
a
over time.
question? Okay. All right, well, we're ready for a motion if somebody wants to make one on this. Second by Senator Estevez, motion by Senator Calvert. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Senator Albers.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Representative Camp, you're up next with your House Bill 153.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and committee members. All right, so House Bill 153, the sales and use tax exemption for manufacturing equipment, it omitted concrete trucks. And so DOR felt we needed to have a bill a few years ago that codified that concrete trucks were manufacturing, because they are. They're moving concrete. If concrete stops moving, it's a solid mass and it's no longer being manufactured. So all this bill does on line 11 is it extends the sunset from 2026 to 2031.
All right, and we've had this before, a few years back, obviously, because part of the truck is transportation and part of it is manufacturing. So it doesn't
Correct.
exempt the whole truck, just the manufacturing part of the truck.
That is my understanding.
Okay, so this is just doing what we've done before. Any questions by the committee? I'll take a motion then. Certainly.
And one, it does say used to mix or transport concrete.
Well, yes.
Now,
Because-
mixing parts, manufacturing, transportation, is just moving it. I mean, I'm reading that off of the legislative analysis.
Well, yes, sir, but it has to, sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead, but I'll jump
was
in.
just-
go ahead if you want to step in, Senator Steele.
So you have a lot of different types of concrete, right? You have ready mix that's made at the plant. You also have site mix. But either way, you're transporting. Part of the mixing process is part of the set. As you can't just take concrete, dump it, and that's why the barrel is constantly turning. So that's part of it, is to be able to, while it's mixing, while the drum is turning, that's part of the manufacturing process, to be able to get all the materials mixed together. So it's you have a very short lifespan from the time it leaves the plant to the time you're pouring.
All right, let me ask you, somebody from DOR want to weigh in on this?
I believe Austin is here.
We're good with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
and Senator Steele, how many, I guess it's in yards of concrete, how many did you do this last year anyway, in your business? So?
More than a few.
You know a little bit about concrete, huh?
I think we did about 40,000 yards last year.
All right,
Cubic yards.
all right. Any other questions? All right, did we already took a motion on this or not? I can't remember if we did or not. Well, let's take a motion, and that's probably at the appropriate time for that. Second by Senator Albers, motion by Senator Steele. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. All right, motion carried, and your sponsor?
It's gonna be Senator Rick Williams.
All right, you were doing good until then, but good luck with that. I'm hoping he doesn't use a lot of concrete. He has, but
I believe
I don't
some
know.
is used in his profession.
okay. All right, we've got another bill of yours we're looking at here, and that's House Bill 134. We have looked at this in the past and didn't pass it out. I think you made some changes to it.
Yes, thank you so much, Senator. Yes, this actually was in code in 2018. We already had in code that if someone purchased a manufactured home and they go to the clerk of courts within 30 days of purchase and they make it real property, they were able to get 50% of the sales tax back that they're paying into the state. This bill changes it slightly by including the local portion, 50%. So this makes it more in line with a stick-built home, because when you build a stick-built home, you don't pay tax on the labor, on the paint, all the labor that goes into a home, but just on the material. So this just makes it more equal with that footing. So hopefully, by saving a little bit of money, we can use this for workforce housing. These homes can be prepared and ready for someone to live in pretty quickly, and they can be placed wherever anyone needs them. So, and I'm open for any questions.
Now, when I talked to you earlier, you didn't think there was a state revenue impact, it was local, but the fiscal note shows some state revenue impact. I guess you've seen that, hadn't you?
Well, yes, but that was already in place because anyone could already do that. They could already go and apply for this 50% back on the state portion, so that was already in code. The change is the local, because now they'll be able to get that money back.
Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't seem like the fiscal note's written right if that's the case then, because this should be the net revenue effect of this House bill. All right,
Well, actually, Representative Martin might have a little more information.
sure, come to the mic if you want to.
In other Georgia code, there's already an exemption for 50%. Came about at a different process. So what you have is I believe what you have, I don't have it in front of me, but a fiscal note that statically looks at this piece of legislation only. And when taken into account of the dynamic look of what was already there, it would be a net to the state to, I'm going to say roughly zero.
Okay.
Because the deduction was already available but is not accounted for in this fiscal note, because this doesn't repeal that section, because it still exists for people that go that path.
All right. And I don't think we've got anybody from fiscal audits here, do we?
I don't believe so.
All right, Senator Estevez.
Representative Camp, thank you so much. Chairwoman, thank you so much for this bill. I'm fully in support and appreciate what you're trying to do around workforce housing and making housing more affordable for hardworking Georgians across the state, and trying to level the playing field. One issue that I'd raised with you was about modular housing, which is similar to manufactured homes, but different in how they're constructed, different in how they're taxed somewhat. And I was hoping to add modular housing to this scheme, but working with Legislative Council and the Department of Revenue and yourself, I couldn't really figure out a way to do that yet. But I do appreciate your effort in this bill, fully supportive of it, and hope to continue to work with you in the future on including modular housing, which is increasing in popularity across the state.
Thank you, Senator Estevez.
All right, and I have had my, revenue effect question answered, so I'm good with that now. I'm sorry, my mic was off. I have had my revenue question answered, by whatever we call Senate Research now, OPL or whatever the name is, OPLA. So I'm good with that now. Is that Senator Beach?
Just ready to make a motion if you're ready.
Okay, I think we're ready.
Okay, I'd like to move to pass House Bill 134, LC 501114S. Do pass.
Got a motion, a second? You're right. Senator Estevez had a second on it. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries, and your sponsor on this one?
My sponsor on this one is gonna be Randy Robertson.
All right, Randy's busy today, huh? Now, he
Nervous.
was in here holding the hand of his other House member when they presented his bill, but not yours, so.
No,
Does
he
he
trusts
trust
me.
you more?
He
Okay.
does.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for coming and bringing the bill. Representative Newton, you want to come forward?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we've got House Bill 144
Sure.
up here. Go ahead and present the bill to us when
Thank
you're
you.
ready.
Good opportunity to be here. LC 501006 is the version I'm working off of. House Bill 144 is a result of a challenge in Georgia. We're 40th in the nation in physicians per capita. We're pretty sure that has a role in our challenges regarding mental health, possibly maternal mortality. So HB 144 continues and expands a policy that's already in existence to help with the training of our medical students, our PAs, nurse practitioners, in a way that can give hands-on learning and make a tremendous difference in that. Georgia is doing some good news, has some good news. We have a new standalone medical school in Athens that's branched off. I know Mercer's expanded into Columbus and has been in Savannah. And of course, MCG has a new campus along with Georgia Southern in Savannah as well. So we are getting, and we're increasing class sizes as well. So we've got a lot of things going in the right direction to try to improve on that, those metrics that we're looking at. We also have some new and expanding NP and PA programs. But a crucial part of that training as a physician or a healthcare provider is the hands-on learning. Many of us go to med school, obviously, at a teaching hospital, Grady, Medical College of Georgia, tertiary care hospitals where you do a lot of subspecialties. But so much of the important, one problem with that is you're behind 7th, 6th, 5th year residents, 3rd year residents in different programs. And as a medical student, you may not get as much of a hands-on training. This physician preceptor, for where a physician out in private practice or in practice in the state somewhere, or a nurse practitioner or PA, if it's one of those students, can agree to take a month-long rotation from a student. And it's pretty much hands-on learning that is just much different and very crucial. It's also important that because it goes across almost all 159 counties where people do this, it gets a lot of our students exposed to different areas of Georgia as well. So it is a crucial part of the training to complement the tertiary care training that we get for several years in the teaching hospitals. So there's really no substitute. House Bill 144 continues this, kind of streamlines it at $1,000 per month for someone willing to. There's some inefficiencies, I'll admit, that when you accept a student into your practice. You've got to introduce them, you've got to give them another computer so they can start to learn how to do electronic records, without which we really can't practice nowadays without some aspect of electronic records. So it does take up some space, it takes up some effort, it slows down. A lot of them do it as a goodwill gesture. I would say this $1,000 tax credit is kind of the state's way to say thank you for helping improve the training, both the quality of the training and the quantity of the training for medical students, nurse practitioners, and PAs. House Bill 144 does add dentists to this. We are adding a new dental school down in Savannah as well. They don't do as much training outside of dental school as physicians, nurse practitioners, and PAs do with the hands-on, but they do some and at some very crucial places. So this adds dentists into that. It does extend the currently this will expire next year. If we didn't act, this will extend that sunset date to 2030. allow us to keep doing the program. With the new expanded classes and the new medical schools that have been developed, we are asking for a $6 million cap. I can tell you, because of what I mentioned earlier, that some of the physicians that do this, they don't even turn in their rotation. That would be the max we could approve, but we would probably spend less than that getting all the training done in such a crucial way. So I look forward to answering any questions. I do think this is something that can make a difference in how the healthcare across Georgia, outside of our metro areas that are already so blessed with abundant competing resources to give us care. It's great to see opportunities to get our students into the rest of Georgia.
All right. Well, we, of course, you've been out a long time like me, and I was always the see one, do one, teach one.
Hard to do that in the line
And
of
there's a lot of
residents.
competition. There's people, and it is, students can be good or they can frustrate your day, as you know. But I do think we should all do the teaching, so I don't really take part in this, but I understand that's the reality of the world we're in right now. And I will say is, we've got a lot of stuff from increased ways to get residents on board to a bill I've worked on that can take from many months to maybe just a couple of weeks to get somebody licensed and credentialed in our state, to other issues we've got going on to try to get our workforce out there. Some stuff we're doing trying to get more foreign physicians in here as well. So this is a small part of that is getting a workforce there. We've got questions. I'm not sure who was first. I think it was Senator Hickman first, so let me let you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, great bill. Thanks, sir. We got a similar type of situation with the technical college system in Georgia called apprenticeship program. And it is really busting out. So this is a great program. We appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you, sir. And you're right. Those are some amazing programs to get people in the high need jobs that we need. This is just a different one of them.
All right, Senator Estevez, or you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've passed this in the
I
past.
believe you've seen it before, and I believe it did pass this, and I think it failed late in the year, from my recollection.
I don't think it ever has got through rules or got called up or something, wasn't it? Or
We got to rules and that was.
Okay.
yeah.
I think given where we are in the state with our healthcare crisis and the need to have more practitioners, this is certainly a priority. As y'all mentioned, it's hard for practitioners to take on these preceptorships, to train these folks, because it is a burden. You're not getting paid for it. It doesn't necessarily add to your practice. You're literally just teaching and mentoring folks.
True, and I failed to mention, in addition to the public, Emory, Mercer, Morehouse, all of the schools, I think they've written letters in support of this because all of them need it to get their students the training they need. So it's a way we can do it for all of our schools.
And that's the key. If there's a backlog, if you don't have enough folks who are doing this, then you can't get the credentials that you need to keep moving forward in practice. So this is a critical element of making sure that we're filling in that provider gap.
That's absolutely correct.
And on a personal note, I will add, I was the first Emory anesthetist student at Rebben Hospital in Rome. I had to work about a year to get the rotation set up. And so.
Well, now we have good people who are setting them up for students. A lot of the communities are providing housing near the hospital as well as part of it to get the students to come do rotations in their areas. They recognize that when they get introduced to different areas like Rome, and they a lot of them like to come back and stay for a career.
Yeah, you want to see where you're going to work. Senator Calzert, I believe you were next.
Thank you. If I could ask a couple. So this is different than a residency program?
Oh, correct. This is during medical school. This is your junior and senior year. You do probably 3,000 hours a year of hands-on clinical training. Some of that, as I said, is in the hospital for, nephrology and some other more high-tech specialties or hospital-based specialties, surgical ones. But then they also go to general surgeons in practice, pediatricians, family medicine, really all the outpatient specialties, psychiatry as well. So it's different. These are still in the 4 years of medical school that follow college, and then the residency would follow that. And you are right, we're doing a lot with GME this year as well and other bills.
So are there a shortage of doctors willing to serve as preceptors, and we're having to increase their pay to persuade them to do it, or some?
when I say increase it, it's really not increasing it. We did, originally was like 3 months was 750, and then the next up to 7 rotations would be 1,000. This streamlines it by just making it 1,000 for however many they do, up to 10 rotations.
So you're increasing $650 a rotation from the beginning,
Right.
from the first 3.
It's a little easier to explain when you're trying to recruit someone, to encourage someone to accept medical students into their practice.
Do you know how many of these we have in the state? How many preceptorships?
No, we have people who do know.
Okay.
If Ms. Cornegay could either join me or tell me, I'll repeat it.
This past year, we had a total of 18,000 rotations that were completed, and I do have the number of preceptors and a map of where they're located, if you want that.
So rotation is a 1 month?
It's a 1 month rotation.
So you're paying the doctor $10,000 a year then if they have somebody
They take,
full year?
they take 10 different students, correct. Many don't do that, but
Okay.
We had,
pretty difficult.
5,624 preceptors registered and 1,884 who actually qualified last year.
And I think one of the issues is the foreign schools to get access are,
Well, that is
paying.
true. Yeah, a lot of the
And so they
Caribbean and
take-
other schools
they
are.
compete for the slots out there of people that are willing to do this. And, like I say, I've done it and I'll continue to do it, but not everybody's willing to do it.
Yeah.
It is a burden, but I want somebody to take care of me when I'm old too, so.
And I want them to be well trained.
That's why I do it. Any other questions from the committee? I guess we can take a motion now if anybody wants to make one. We've got a move by, a motion by Senator Estevez, seconded by Senator Hickman. All in favor of this, raise your hand. All right, and those opposed, we've got 2 noes. So bill carries, and have you got a sponsor, or you?
Was talking with the chairman about doing that, if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, I can do it, or we can also see if Senator Watson's interested in it, since he is a physician,
And he does too.
yeah, well, I'll discuss that with him. All right.
Thank you.
So now let's see, we've got House Bill 79, and this is by, again, Representative Newton. You've got a couple of things in there. One of the members
There's a couple of graphs, and then
had
there's
requested
a diagram.
some additional language, so that'll be what we discuss here, I guess. So go ahead. Well, have you got your LC number? Let's make sure we're reading off of your LC number first.
I have LC 501085S,
Okay?
House Bill 79.
All right. So go ahead.
All right, thank you, sir. So HB 79 regards 2 areas of interest that the legislature has given great and much deserved attention. Areas that affect the care and safety of our children is one. Protecting the rights of Georgia citizens in particular, one as special as one of the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment, the right to protect ourselves and our families and our children. So HB 79 represents an additional part of that effort to improve on both of those. It does that by providing the option of using a tax credit of up to $300 per taxpayer to do a couple of things: to obtain a firearm secure storage device, and, if desired, to obtain firearm safe handling instructional course. For a little bit of background on your graphs, you'll see that recognizes that firearm deaths in children and youth 1 to 19 have now surpassed motor vehicle accidents as the leading cause of death, above cancer and drowning and other things. Now, that's partly because motor vehicle accidents with airbags and improved safety, air-lock brakes and all, those have been coming down, but there has been a slight increase in firearm deaths in ages 1 to 19. And one thing that's pretty important to remember, though, is to look at the bar graph that shows that over 60% of these are homicides. Most of these are gang-related, felony criminal activities, homicide. I am real proud of the legislature for the effort, some in this room, to attack the gang problem that we have in Georgia. Whether the Attorney General's Gang Task Force, I know we had efforts in recent years to fight the recruitment of minors by gangs. So we're working on that, and that's the leading cause of death. It's the highest percentage, like I said, over 60%. So we're doing a lot to work on that. So that leads to this portion of bills. There's a reasoning behind the firearms safe handling instructional courses. There are many Georgians who perhaps didn't grow up hunting or around firearms or comfortable around firearms, but they may be now living in an area with increased crime, with our law enforcement resources being stretched and difficulties recruiting due to outside pressures. But then those individuals, and as a matter of fact, since 2020, almost half of the handgun sold have been to women. I'm not saying that they didn't grow up hunting or anything, but at the same time, that's a possibility. And now many of these people recognize the need to appropriately protect themselves, to protect their families, and to protect their children. They'd like to obtain a firearm for that peace of mind, but they want to do it in a responsible manner. So they want to get trained. Those courses are checked around. They're $100 to $150 as an average amount for a firearm, an in-person firearm safe handling instructional course. So that's really somebody who may not own a firearm now but wants to do it in a responsible way. The second part of the bill, as we said, is a firearm secure storage device. It would allow people to use part of their tax obligation, that $300 tax credit per taxpayer, for a secure storage device. As we remember, over 60% of homicides, many of those stolen handguns, we think that bedside safes and things like that can make a difference. Does leave a pretty significant number. That's the 30% approximately that are suicides, just the tragedy of suicide, and about 10% that are accidental shootings of those firearm deaths in ages 1 to 9. So this bill, House Bill 79, offers really choices for parents, firearm owners. There's things like a bedside safe that can be about $100 with a digital quick release or a biometric rapid access if needed. There are trigger locks and cables. I know this is an example of one that's about $10. They can almost disable almost any firearm adequately if used properly. If you can imagine a home with a child or a troubled teen, something as simple as this could give you the time you need to get the mental health options out there and resources to someone who's going through the ups and downs of the teen years. So there's additional protections in the bill. There is a specific prohibition on having a list of the people who use this credit. Even though, once again, if you buy these, you don't have to own a firearm. You can give them to your grandparents. You can give your kids' grandparents. You can give them to neighbors if you're trying to be sure that the homes that your children play in are responsible. So there's no threats of criminal statutes or anything like that. No list of this. And once again, it's strictly voluntary and an option. I think securing firearms, especially in homes with young children, potentially troubled teens, visiting neighbors or grandchildren, is a responsible action. I appreciate the effort to present this. It's an effort to, like I said, started with protect the care and safety of our children, but to do so in a manner that wholeheartedly protects Georgians' Second Amendment right to protect themselves and their families. So that's what it's been carefully crafted to do. It is a $10 million max. It does have a 5-year sunset. You can only use it once. But that's the bill, sir. It's one we have looked at before, and I believe it made it out of rules last time. But I'd be glad to answer any questions or clarify.
We've got Senator Albers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always great to see you, Chairman Newton. I understand where this is coming from, and I think it certainly compassionate thought process. My question is that's $10. If somebody needs to write off $10 or $100 in their taxes, it will be so de minimis and insignificant that it just seems like we're going to spend $10 million of state money on something that should be a no-brainer. I can't imagine somebody's going to say, boy, if I had this tax credit, that would be the difference between buying what will be a very small dollar figure. And my concern is every time we put another tax credit out there, that's that much more money we're giving away of other people's money to somebody else, so we can't lower the income tax. And again, I think it's coming from all the right places, and I applaud you for doing that. But do you really think that somebody's not going to spend that $10 because of a tax credit, or even $100?
Well, It is an encouragement. A lot of what we do is incentives. We don't like to do mandates. We don't like to do, I mean, I would refuse to participate with anything that resembled that. So it is an effort to give an incentive. That's what the tax credits do. It's kind of a, you are correct. It is state money. We're not buying them and sending them to people, which I guess theoretically could be an option, but it does get the conversation started, and it does it in a way that respects their Second Amendment rights. I do think those gun safes, a lot of people feel strongly. You know, we all spend 3 months away from home, most of us here, leaving family members at home. You might want quick access that's $100 or $120 gun safe. I agree, we should all probably do it anyway, but sometimes getting the conversation started is a help.
Again, I
But
appreciate
I
everywhere it's coming from.
understand your concern about all tax credits.
Thank you.
You're not wrong.
Senator Estevez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman, I appreciate the intent here and love the fact that we are addressing an issue at its core by ensuring that people have an incentive to lock up their weapons, whether you're talking to school officials from school districts or you're talking to police chiefs and sheriffs across the state. They will tell you that we have a problem with securing firearms in this state. And it not only impacts what's happening in schools, but it also impacts what trucks get broken into or what vehicles get broken into because people are not locking up their weapons.
They do make these safes for pickup trucks too.
Yeah, which drives up crime. It drives up the accessibility of weapons, not only for children, but also for criminals, which we should be keeping out their hands. So I appreciate the intent here. I do want to point out that while a $10 saving is modest, as my great friend from the 56 said, it is very much worth the state investing $10 million in a $10 savings per person when we are dealing with the life of a child. And we walk around this building touting a savings in a gas tax. And when you look at the savings per Georgian of the gas tax, it's about $10 to $15. Modest saving. And we spend over $100 million to save in the gas tax, to save individuals $10 to $15. If we can do that with the gas tax, then I think it makes sense to be able to save $10 million or give $10 million to hardworking people who might make that $10 difference, could make set the course of whether a child gets hurt or not. So I think that it's a noble thing that you're doing here, and I'm certainly supportive of it.
Senator Dolezal.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. It's good to see you, as always. Appreciate you being here today. I know that you've heard some of the concerns around privacy and essentially this becoming a de facto gun registry.
I believe after this meeting last year is when we added the language prohibiting any dissemination of a list.
Yeah. So as I understand the way this would work is I would go on the Georgia Tax Center, I would log in, I would basically register for a credit, I would get pre-approved, I would then be able to go make the expense, take that as a credit on my tax return.
Right.
As it relates, so with that in mind, and as it relates to line 54 and 55, essentially the department is going to need some mechanism to enforce your rule around it being used once in a lifetime, right? So I don't know how you have a list to check against to ensure that it's used once in a lifetime without having a list then of who has taken advantage of this tax credit. Have you figured out a way to work through that, or have you thought through that?
Trust me, part of two parts to that. One, we did want to make sure it wasn't just open to people to use repeatedly, which is tough. And also, this body did, like the House side, did insist on a cap too, which means they have to keep up with when the cap's reached, not to do that. So there are internal tax documents that if you voluntarily opt into this program, whether you own firearms or you buy some of these for neighbors and family members where your kids play, you will have your name. It will be in your tax credit. If you owed $2,300 in Georgia taxes and you only sent $2,000 in along with this credit, there's obviously a record in your tax record. I've been assured by DOR that our tax records are are as high a level as there is in government to do this. I think the key nature of it being a voluntary program, if someone thinks the disadvantages outweigh the advantages, I certainly understand and would not argue with that. There's no mandate that anybody do this.
Yeah. You know, Chairman Avatarte, I think the way that he has addressed this previously was the idea of a point of sale credit relative essentially to a sales tax holiday that would be anonymous, that would not have any sort of, essentially, I think you would acknowledge there has to be a tracking mechanism in here for us.
And it says there,
yeah.
Except for purposes necessary for the DOR to administer.
Have you thought about a point of sale credit?
Well, to move the needle on getting those done, yes, I've thought about it as well. I think it is a smaller bit of assistance for a gun safe, or especially one for a vehicle and one for a home. This comes much closer than the, I guess, 4 or 8% we're talking about.
If it was sales tax, yeah.
The sales tax.
Okay.
I don't think they conflict. It would offer an additional option for someone if someone wanted that as well.
Sure. That's my main concern here is if this credit goes on forever, this list has to be kept forever. And that becomes a ever-growing list, essentially, of people that is tracked on the government website of who has a firearm in their home. And I think that I assume you would share that concern. I know you're balancing things here, but that to me, I know personally I would say that saving $200 is not worth being on a list necessarily, but I wonder if that's good public policy in general.
All right, well, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. There's several issues on this, and we're gonna hold off on this and try to work on some of this offline. We've got one more issue that we were trying to get to that we want to. However, I know there were several students that came here, and we've got one other issue we gotta get to, but if y'all wanna pick somebody and talk for about 2 minutes up here, we'll let you sit up here and say,
I would like to add.
Pardon?
I would like to add, we all have testimony.
Okay, you gotta come up here to do it. I've only got time for one of you, so y'all need to pick somebody. I'm sorry, but we're gonna run out of time. Give us your name and.
My name is Allison Bannister. I'm a first-year student at Spelman College.
All right.
I would like to say I would not share my story without my sister sharing as well, but I can speak in general for all of us, that gun violence, as many of you mentioned before, just like Senator Jason Steves, am I correct? Like you mentioned, that it is an issue that does stem from compassion, as you are correct, but also an issue that has people, real souls, real lives who like benefit from this. Credits that this is something that would really help and save lives in the future.
All right.
That's it.
Well, thank you very much. And we do have, there's another committee at 4 that's starting up that several people here are a member of, and so we have to move quickly. And I don't see us resolving this in this time, so that's why we're going to have some discussions among the committee and come back on this again at some point. So thank you for being here and your testimony. We've got one other Senate resolution on here. I didn't promise him I could get to it today, but I think we can. So Senator Moore, you want to come up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Resolution 386, which is a fair tax study committee. I know this committee, obviously here's a lot of good ideas for different ways to collect revenue for this state. This simply is a study committee to look at those different things and make sure that we're providing the best means of revenue for all citizens in Georgia. This is a carbon copy of a study committee that was done back in 2013, and so anyway, it's just taking a look. It's been almost, what would it be? It's over a little over a decade now since we've last studied fair tax in this state, and this simply would allow you to be the chairman of this committee and whoever the lieutenant governor appoints to take a deeper dive into this.
Who had that study in 2013? You know, because I
It would be Leader Gooch.
All right. Okay. Well, you had, I think you had quite a list of people that signed on to this, so I felt like with that we should hear it and see if we want to move this to a study. And of course, at that point, that doesn't mean necessarily the study happens. That's sort of in Lieutenant Governor's office, then they'll look at all the study committees and decide which ones move forward. But we can make eligible. Senator Estevez, I think is that your light on?
Yes, sir. Just a question, if you can explain quickly what the fair tax is, and the difference between implementing it at the national level versus implementing at the state level.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's a consumption tax, which is considered to be fair by many. That's ultimately what we're studying. You know, we have a income tax in our state. Many of our surrounding states do not have an income tax, and in order to be competitive as a state, if we're going to seek out that motto of #1 state for business, I think most Georgians would agree getting rid of the income tax is a great way to do that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Really quickly, there have been many studies on this that show that working families, especially those making $100,000 or less, have a higher burden when it comes to paying sales taxes. And there is also plenty of studies across the country that show states that rely heavily on a sales tax instead of a variety of taxes like we do here in Georgia, including the income tax, that the burden can oftentimes be lower in a state like Georgia versus other states that charge a sales tax in lieu of an income tax. And I would love to make sure that we look at the impact that solely relying on a sales tax and fees does to hardworking Georgians across this state that will feel it more than the wealthy in this state. And I also want to make sure that we, to the extent this passes, which I'm sure it will, we look at what happens when you dramatically change the way the federal government is funded, and you pass on from the federal government all of those expenses onto the states, what that does to our state budget, and how you can sustain a state budget like we have it without increasing the tax burden on hardworking people across the state without cutting necessary services.
I appreciate that concern, and I think if this was looked at, you know, you would look at where we're at right now, not so much necessarily the sales tax rate, but we exempt a lot of things from sales tax. As I didn't know he was presenting this, but I did send the committee that 200-page list of all the tax credits and exemptions that we do in the state of Georgia. So that would probably be part of the discussion too. Or is there a hybrid, you know, that should be looked at? So,
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a great part to add into the discussion, and I think Senator from the 6th would probably agree. I mean, you and I are probably not big fans of corporate welfare, and a lot of these types of exemptions ultimately provide a pseudo corporate welfare in a sense that they're not struck by the same burden as their competition in the tax. So that's what I hope to accomplish with this type of study committee.
All right, Senator Albers.
Great questions, and I applaud you for bringing this study committee forward, Senator. I think you brought up something that was great. You know, if we were to get rid of all these bloated tax credits, I think we realized we could drop the income tax precipitously just by getting rid of those and not impact anybody. Isn't that true?
That's absolutely right, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Dolezal.
At the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion.
All right, let me go ahead and have that motion.
Move to pass Senate Resolution 386.
We've got a motion by Senator Dolezal, a second by Senator Beach. Any discussion on this? I guess we can do hand raising or whatever. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, and all opposed? We've got 3 opposed. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
With that, the meeting will be adjourned for today, and maybe we made up the time almost from the last committee.